Danny boy, Danny boy, Danny boy. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. Listeners might know that, well, that song gets stuck in my head every once in a while. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. What beautiful lyrics. From the band Chumbawamba, circa 1997. Whew. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You know, the latest research around motivation, the neurochemistry that we have around motivation, is pretty interesting. Andrew Huberman, the Stanford neuroscientist, said this on a podcast episode of his about 6 months ago. He said, the most powerful thing we know about our neurochemistry around motivation, the most powerful thing we know from the research, is that the chemical reward center around motivation can be programmed. You can program it to release rewards, neurochemical rewards, around things that you might find to be really hard right now. Working out, that 4th hour with the kids, cold plunge, having hard conversations, dialing it back on how many drinks you have at night, whatever it is, you can actually rewire the reward mechanisms around motivation. He goes on to say that it might take a few weeks, up to 6 weeks, but if you tell yourself, I love this, I'm loving this, I'm getting benefits from this, I love the benefits from this, that you start to release dopamine, the neurochemical reward from the very act that you're trying to avoid, maybe years before. You start to feel good from the action itself. That is so beautiful and unintuitive. We usually think our preferences are set in stone, that they can't be changed, that, well, yeah, you can work out for 2 weeks in a row, but, well, it's just going to be so hard every single time you go to the gym that what's the point? But that's not the case. The literature is saying that within a few weeks, you'll start to look forward to that thing that you would have done anything to avoid weeks prior. Within Vedanta, there is this concept that that which is sweet in the beginning is like poison in the end. And that which is like poison in the beginning is sweet in the end. In other words, the things that feel good to us immediately usually end up being like poison in the end. If it feels really good to you right from the start, sitting on the couch, cruising through social media, a pint of ice cream, the fast food, the sleeping in, well, you do it a little more than you should, and it starts to feel like poison. But the opposite is just as true. The things that can feel like poison, not poison itself, not things that are actually going to kill you, but the things that feel like poison. Another translation is feels bitter in the beginning. The things that feel like poison in the beginning end up being like nectar in the end, end up being sweet in the end. This is an 8,000-year-old concept, and it's bearing out in the research we have today. That which is sweet in the beginning is like poison in the end. That which is like poison in the beginning is sweet in the end. As we talk about the different practices of Vedanta, question everything, don't take anything for granted, study and reflect daily, the 3 daily practices of Vedanta, which we covered in yesterday's episode. Question the hell out of this. Kick the tires of it. Don't take my word for it. See if that has been the case for you in your life. What has been sweet in the beginning? Was it like poison in the end? And what was really hard in the beginning? Like learning a skill, like investing your money or time in something that didn't have an immediate payoff. Relationships with the people that really want to see you develop and thrive. That might not be immediate fireworks, but end up being long-lasting, deep friendships. It seems like some of the best things, if not all the best things in our lives, don't have this immediate payoff. It can be a bit of an investment before it starts to feel great. But it sounds like from the research, from the literature that is coming out around our neurochemistry, around our wiring around motivation, that when we actually stick to something that we know is good for us, through that beginning trough, reminding ourselves that this is awesome for us, that this is good for us, that even if it feels, and Huberman mentions this, even if it feels disingenuous, tell yourself, I love this. And you can actually reprogram your neurochemistry around motivation. We can overcome our lower preferences for ones that are higher and ones that previously we would have done anything to avoid. That is a powerful notion. And it maps perfectly to the concept of what is sweet in the beginning is like poison in the end. And what is like poison in the beginning is sweet in the end. And now it probably makes sense to you why I am so insanely jacked. That's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.